male veteran survivors. Military sexual trauma, also known as MST, is reported to affect approximately 27,000 service members, both male and female. Of that total, 53% are males, according to the Department of Defense's Military Sexual Assault Report 2012. The data for 2013 does not give the percentages. DoD failed to report a baseline of just how many estimated rapes there are in the most current report. The 2014 report is supposed to be available this April, and hopefully the DoD will reveal an approximation of the true numbers. Men usually do not report or come forward about sexual assault in the armed forces or the civilian sector for decades, if ever at all. Although sexual assault is a human rights issue, it is not a gender issue, it is not an issue of sexual orientation, yet sexual assault does affect male survivors in very unique ways. This epidemic directly affects national security as well as the safety of our local communities, so long as perpetrators are free to roam without facing harsh consequences. The danger will remain ever present. This crisis financially costs the taxpayer harshly when we lose good, educated, and well-trained men and women just because they were sexually assaulted on active duty. When the DoD treats the victim in an irresponsible and disloyal way, they are once again sadly re-victimized. The goal is to educate the public in order to put pressure on our legislative branch of government regarding the urgent need for accountability in order to address this devastating issue. This is a heinous crime, and it has severe effects upon the individual, the military, the country, and our communities. With policy and legislation that includes meaningful reform and oversight, there may be hope in decreasing the amount of sexual assault within our armed forces. If the DoD would promptly treat MST not unlike any other visible injury, possibly male and female survivors just might be able to continue to serve their country, instead of the large number of claims that are clogging up the VA healthcare system and the financial stressor put upon the country as a whole due to ever-increasing claims. For over 20 years, I have been a medical and clinical social worker. It is only within the last few years that I have become a filmmaker. What I have come to realize is that documentary filmmaking and social work partner well together to creatively support the opportunity to view a particular system, to explore a person in their environment, to educate, to advocate, and to possibly create change through solution-focused legislation. This is my passion. In December of 2013, my husband and I were invited by General Woodward to visit the Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Office, better known as SAPRO, at the Pentagon, to discuss military sexual trauma and this documentary. This past summer, 2014, this film was screened at the Senate in Washington, D.C., hosted by New York Senator Christian Gillibrand. And it was also screened this past July at the 2014 NASW Conference Film Festival in D.C., and that film festival occurs every 2 years. In addition, it is now being used by several military installations and universities as a training tool, and this spring it will be seen for Columbia Law School's Center for Gender and Sexuality Law in New York City. Most recently, the film screened in Los Angeles with a joint discussion about sexual assault with Barbara Bowman, PAVE ambassador and alleged rape survivor of Bill Cosby. As you can see, this is the little film that could. Yet, there is much work to be done, whether it is about MST, campus rape, or sexual assault perpetrated by a well-known public figure. Tragically, approximately 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Out of that number, it is estimated that 12% are combat-related. And so we wonder and ask ourselves, just how many are we losing to suicide in the invisible war of military sexual trauma? These numbers are painfully staggering. I would like active duty, military, guard, reserve, veterans and their families to know that they will not be invisible, and that justice will not be denied. If you take anything away from screening this bill today, please hear that sexual assault is not about gender, not about who the perpetrator is. It is about power and control. And lastly, this is an ongoing human rights issue in dire need of reform in many systems. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the film.